With the rise in accessibility of art programs, YouTube prior to 2015 was a wild west of abundant creativity inhibited by an algorithm that didn't favor it. But over the years, artists survived, they adapted, and they persevered, which led to the rise of storytime animation. But there's one subgenre of art that I feel often gets overlooked on the platform. We need to talk about animatic culture and its crazy ability to make a fandom soar.
If I can prove that I never touched my balls, will you promise not to tell another soul what you saw?
Animation culture prior to 2015 on YouTube was a really weird time. I would have to break it up into like 3 separate categories. Fully fledged animation projects. I'm talking independent projects, college short films, and usually videos made for other YouTubers. The best examples that I can think of for animations made for YouTubers would be Jade Animation's FNAF animation that she did for iHas Cupquake, or literally any Markiplier FNAF animation. There's a lot of FNAF. Then we have MMDs and SFDs. MMD stands for Miku Miku Dance, and it's a free animation software, hence why most MMDs are Vocaloid or Utaloids. Then we have SFD, which is another free animation software, mainly known for TF2 and FNAF animations. Then we have animation memes, which... Animation memes are usually less than a minute long, at most 2 minutes. They're someone's OC or favorite character hopping and bopping around the screen, made to be created by other artists to start a trend. You know, like Pork Soda, as I said, or Can't Sleep Love. I don't know why I have to explain animation memes to you. You're on a Hamilton video. I know what you are. Moving on. All of these categories of art and animation still exist on YouTube today and are still a very integral part of the YouTube community. It's safe to say that storytime animation at the time was in and of itself thriving, but still niche. But also every other art-related thing at the time was either you're in the fandom or you don't know it exists. It was kind of a miracle that animation YouTube survived at all back then. The algorithm didn't favor the long production cycles, copywritten music was constantly getting videos taken down, and animators had to fight with Let's Players for views. It was like survival of the fittest, but the fittest was Markiplier. Yeah. But the artists persevered. They adapted. And then, enter Lin-Manuel Miranda.
No one else in the room where it happened. Is that a yes?
It's 2015, Vine and YouTube Rewind are still thriving, and Broadway is still Broadway. I could make a whole separate video on how Hamilton changed Broadway's demographic, but Hamilton changed everything. A rap musical about the Founding Fathers sounded like a rejected SNL bit, but Lin-Manuel made it work. Theater kids loved it. The Republican memes loved it. Your auntie loved it. It had some of the best and catchiest lyrics in modern Broadway history. The timing was just perfect. We were living in an age where Tumblr culture attached onto anything and made it their entire personality. And I understand, you know, you couldn't just like something. You had to have multiple blogs dedicated to it. It had to be the entirety of your being. Hamilton was designed in a lab for blue-hair bitches with flower crowns to absolutely devour it, and Lin knew what the fuck he was doing. But here's the thing, at the time, no piece of media could have sparked an animatic boom like Hamilton did. Like, no one out here in 2014 was making 3 million view animatics of Les Mis. One day more like One Day Snore. That shit wasn't happening. Hamilton was quirky. Hamilton was different. Hamilton wasn't like other girls, and it had everything to do with how the show was built. For one, the entirety of the story is basically sung. Almost every musical at the time had tons of dialogue in between each song. So even if you're just listening to the soundtrack, you're still missing crucial pieces of the story. But with Hamilton, the soundtrack is the story. You start off with this angsty kid who reads and writes all the time. He's like, I am an orphan, la la la, to the ending where you get to see Burr Merkis shit. Boom goes the cannon, watch the blood in this shit spray, and boom, he's dead. He's dead. Spoilers. I don't know if you knew that. My bad. Anyways, you get this whole story just by listening to the album. This just makes it ridiculously easy for people who can't buy tickets to still fall in love with this show because they're not missing anything crucial. And since fans were already building these beautiful, elaborate images of what's happening in the shows in their head, animatics were the next natural step. It's fan art in motion. I might need my inhaler, my heart rate's going up. If you just closed your eyes, you could imagine Angelica rewinding time in Satisfied, or watching King George stomp off the stage because his ye old boyfriend just got caught kissing another guy at the ye old bar. And hundreds, if not thousands, of artists and animators and people who had not even made a post online before went, I can do that! They didn't need to recreate a stage, they didn't need costumes. All they needed was to sketch out these emotions, the beats, the energy. This musical begged to be visualized. Hamilton's songs are dramatic and cinematic in a way that is made for an artist. As I already stated, Satisfied has a rewind feature built into the song. Non-stop is literally building and building and building to the point where Hamilton is practically vibrating with obsession. Even King George's songs were practically made for you to attach your OC and character headcanons to them. Every track felt like it had a storyboard hidden inside of it that was just waiting for someone to sketch it out. The songs told a beautiful story. The characters were larger than life, and with a new fan base that nobody could really see the musical, it needed this representation and visualization. It was a perfect storm. And speaking of storm, the only modern musical to date that I feel has even came close to the Hamilton animatic boom of 2015 is Epic the Musical by Jorge Rivera Herranz. I do recommend to listen to it if you haven't before. It is a little goofy, I will say. I personally really enjoy it. My partner got me into it. But if you're watching a video about Hamilton, there's a 50% chance that you were into Percy Jackson. I know what you are. Hamilton tickets sold out in days, then weeks, then months, then years. And when I was 15 begging for tickets, these bitches were starting at $5,000. It was impossible to see live unless you were rich, famous, buying resold tickets, or you sold your liver on Depop. So for most fans, the only way that they could experience Hamilton was through the official soundtrack and on YouTube. So what did the fans do? They made their own visuals.
I can prove that I never touched my balls. Will you promise not to tell one other so what you saw? No one else was in the room where it happened.
Once Hamilton hit YouTube, it was like putting Mentos into a 2-liter Diet Coke. It exploded. Animatics weren't new by any matter of the word. They had been floating around fandom spaces for a long time. But Hamilton caused this giant, very loud, artistic explosion. Every other thing in your recommended was a different version of My Shot or a different version of Burn, and the wild part was you got a different experience with every single video. That is what made this moment feel so big. It wasn't just that there was a lot of animatics, it was that every artist was interpreting the exact same audio in completely different ways. One person might draw Hamilton as a scrappy, anime-inspired genius, while another one might make him a ooh-woo soft boy in a flower crown. Angelica could look regal and beautiful in one animation, and it's Warrior Cats in the next one. These characters didn't live in a single visual identity. They lived in 1,000 styles at once, and they made this fandom feel alive and constantly changing. And that's exactly what Lin tried to do when he casted Hamilton. So obviously it translated into the fan base. Each song in Hamilton was a self-contained short film. Each artist could pick their favorite moment and go all in. One person doing the Schuyler Sisters, the next person doing Non-Stop, and before you knew it, the fandom had already recreated the entirety of the musical. It was an unofficial, crowdsourced animation project that wasn't planned because it was everyone feeding off of each other's artistry. You would watch one animatic and think, I can do this too. Your video would gain traction, and suddenly you're not just an artist in your bedroom anymore. You are part of a global conversation. And the algorithm at the time, it was eating that shit up. People would watch the same animatic like 100 times just so they could hear their favorite song again. People were watching these animatics instead of streaming the musical. And because Hamilton is already about leaving your legacy and leaving a mark, it had this beautiful poetic layer to it. This musical is about ambition and storytelling and being remembered, and the fandom reflected that. This was a spontaneous, internet-wide animation renaissance where a random sketchbook kid with Photoshop and a pirated version of Sony Vegas truly felt like they were part of something bigger. And they were. No matter how small of an impact they think they made based on some arbitrary number of views on a screen, We're truly part of something bigger.
Is that a yes? You just touched your ball?
Did the prime Hamilton animatic boom have an effect on your mental health and how people perceive you?
I don't think so, because I was just young and dumb. So I don't think the community that I developed was anyone over the age 18. So I feel like the community that I got was more people that were like me. So I didn't have a bunch of weirdos. And if there were weirdos, it was okay because they were the same type of weirdo that I was. I feel like nothing in particular, but I do remember just like once I started posting those, I got such good reactions from the community. And like, don't get me wrong, the art was terrible. It was bad. It was the fact that like all the people were so supportive in my comments, it made me like want to keep making them. So when I was like, hey, I actually want to make story time video, I already had kind of that following to like keep pushing me forward, and like now I'm here and now I don't to work a normal job.
Meaning-wise, it hasn't really kickstarted my desire to create, but it did make me realize I was capable of much more than I originally anticipated, which I will always be grateful for. It made my art improve very fast, and the amazing reception really helped my artistic self-esteem and gave me motivation to create, but it also gave me the desire to get better and better to an impossible degree. I eventually learned my limits. Is there anything like an event or a thing that a viewer said or did that stood out to you?
It wasn't, so like when I was first starting out, I don't know if this was like during the Hamilton phase or like during that storytime transition, but it was like early in my career. I did have a Discord server.
Oh my god.
And
yeah, that'll do it.
again, I was a minor at the time. People started drawing some weird things and showing me in Discord. Yeah, so that kind of stuck with me, but that's not really related. I don't think it affected my it did affect my mental health, but in a positive way, which is, I think, rare for a lot of people that were doing Hamilton animatics.
Yeah, what people like complain about is obviously people being parasocial, and then like the burnout from
Oh my god, the burnout.
Yeah, the burnout being crazy. It definitely inflated my ego a little bit, but not enough to consider myself the best. I'd say it was a healthy amount, since I always did see room for improvement. It also gave me the confidence to post more. I always loved comments that deeply analyzed my videos, with the colors I used, reading into micro expressions, or little foreshadowings. Those always made my day. I think I can count the actual negative comments on my fingers. There weren't really many, and they were mostly related to me ending the Hamilton animatic phase of my channel. I do remember feeling a mix of regret and honestly a bit of anger. I don't think I mentioned that before, but I did fight the urge to sometimes reply with, "Did you really expect this to be the only thing I'd be doing?" But that was just unresolved teen angst, and I'm glad I never replied to a comment that way. Mental health-wise, it was a double-edged sword. It made me believe I was capable of making some good videos, but my standards eventually went up so high that I stopped being happy with the things that I created. Reaching that level started to feel impossible, so I kind of just put too much on my plate. I remember the transition from reading positive comments and feeling happy that people liked my work, to feeling unable to understand how people liked what I drew in the first place. Cue the burnout. If you could go back and change one thing about any of your old videos, what would it be?
Immediately, I'm like, don't post them. But then I'm like, wait. I just wish that they aged well. I wish I could look back on them and be like, oh, this was so cute. But like, I would literally, I think I made them in like one weekend.
No fucking shot you made those in one damn weekend.
Yeah, if I could just go back and tell them, like, hey, maybe 2 weekends on this, that would be great.
Bro was killing that damn Wacom tablet. Killing that Wacom tablet.
No, literally.
Killing that Wacom.
Wacom tablet, Windows Movie Maker. We didn't have CapCut.
Back in our day, we didn't have no fucking
day.
I think I'd actually look up pictures of the cast before making those animatics. Maybe post a little less frequently to prevent burnout and pace myself, but who knows? Maybe the channel wouldn't have ended up doing so well if I changed things up, but I would have saved myself a little bit of trouble mentally at least. Maybe. Where's my script? Let me say something inspirational.
Alright. Yeah,
you
hey,
were...
Grok. Just the community and the internet at that time, I just didn't overthink it. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna also put my hat in here.
I think that was like everyone was very inspired by the other artists around them. They were like, wait, I could do that.
All right, was that inspirational enough?
Yeah, that was beautiful. I like when you mentioned Grok.
This is
It's the first murder trial of a brand new nation.
If I can prove that I never touched my balls, will you promise not to tell on others? So what you saw.
That big of a fan base with a connection of viewers and artists alike was really hard to fathom at the time. But now that 10 years has gone by and we're getting this huge resurgence with the 10-year anniversary of Hamilton and creators like Ashby, all of these new trends and ways to share love for this musical really made me take a step back and feel grateful for the artists who paved the way for future generations finding this fan base now. I wholeheartedly believe that fandom culture and animatic culture would not be where it is today if the Hamilton fandom didn't pave the way like they did in 2015. And to that I say thank you to the artists, and thank you for the viewers, because you are just as integral as the artists were at this time. That being said, I think we should go to the American Visionary Art Museum and get a projector, and it's just a 24-hour loop of the Story of Tonight reprise by Galactibun Spibble's Aquarium, or nothing else in the museum, just a framed photo of the little heart in the mouth, because that was more influential than the entirety of the Confederacy, let's be honest. I may have punched him. It's a blur. Sir, he handles the financials. You punch the burr, sir? Yes, I wanted to do what you did.
It's like I'm a sleeper agent.
Yeah,
It'll never leave me.
Something just took over my body. It was Lynn himself. Wait.